And what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Designated Players, an MLS podcast. The summer transfer window is officially closed, and it's time for us to round it up and talk about the biggest deals this summer, specifically on transfer deadline day that went absolutely nuts. I'm Andrew, that's Connor, and here is the final transfer window roundup. We've done two of these already, but this last one is going to be the biggest yet. Connor, are you excited?
I'm stoked.
Oh, I get it. Stoke, top of the table. Stoke, I get it.
It wasn't what I was going for, but I'm game for that.
Awesome. You know what I'm going for? I'm going for a look at your scarf right now. What are you rocking?
I had to bring it out. It's the big topic of the day. And let me tell you something, Andrew. It tastes like USMNT tears, and it tastes delicious.
Brother, I was just about to say, did you just lick your scarf? Am I seeing
I did.
brother,
I'm
my
committed to the
the,
bit.
the audio listeners are going to be absolutely just I don't even know how I would react to this. If you are listening to this and you want to see what just happened, come follow us on YouTube. Look up the Designated Players an MLS podcast. We are posting every day there, multiple times a day, probably. And we also have a ton of really fun content. We do our question of the week over there, so be a part of that. And follow us on all the other social medias too: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, the good ones. Um, but we are going to show off my scarf and then get right into it because we got a lot to cover. One of those teams is Charlotte. So I didn't want to bring out the boring Charlotte one that has, one color scheme and is super boring. But I did have this Charlotte one that has Charlotte right there from the Club World Cup. Yeah, cool. Let's start. So the way I want to do this, I want to just go over some of the most active teams on the last couple of days because we've done the individual moves for the most part. So we're going to talk FC Cincinnati tonight. We're going to talk CF Montreal tonight. Crazy. We're going to talk RSL, we're going to talk Charlotte, and we're going to finish up with what some are saying is the death blow to the U.S. men's national team in Colorado. I mean, you want to talk about getting grouped in the World Cup? This specific move is going to get us there. But you're going to have to wait to the end to hear us chat about it because we're starting with FC Cincinnati. They have some people saying that they put together the greatest transfer window of all time. We'll talk about it because this team is at the top of the supporter shield race, even with San Diego. I think behind on goal differential, if I remember correctly, at the time of recording. Have a day off. Um, and instead of taking their foot off the pedal and just winding it into a playoff spot, they have revamped their entire lineup to take control and win the thing. They've made 5 moves so far. Ender Enchanike on a U22 deal, Ayub Jabari, Samuel Gidi, and then on deadline day, they brought in 2 huge moves: Dominic Marschuk from RSL on loan, and another loan for their former designated player Brenner to come back from Udinese. They also let go of 3 players. Corey Baird is out the door. Sergio Santos was waived, and DeAndre Yedlin heads back to RSL. As I mentioned, some were calling this the best window in league history. What are your thoughts?
I think those people are absolutely delusional. I don't know what they're talking about to call this the best window in league history. Come on. I'm all for supporting your team and their moves, but like let's calm down a minute here. That's insanity to call this the best window in Major League Soccer history. It's a lot of moves that have the potential to be good, but they're bringing in guys that just like are not in form at the moment is the way I would describe it. Like you're bringing Brenner in, right? Brenner went to Udinese, as you mentioned, after a breakout year for FC Cincinnati and had an injury that made him miss a lot of time. And since that point, just cannot get into the team, just does not play. He has amassed a whopping 575 minutes for them and scored a singular goal. I understand there's potential there. Like he had a insane season for FC Cincinnati and maybe he could do it again coming back, but it is potential we are talking about here. We are not talking about peak Brenner coming back to this team. I can't be like that's one of the stars of the window. I can't be saying that a guy that could be good is the best window of all time. And to be quite frank, it's the same thing with Marchuk as well. Be huge potential when he first joined RSL from Jagiellonia. Like he had 16 goal contributions at 19 years old, comes over to RSL. I don't know what happened the first season. Like maybe it was a summer transfer window move. Maybe it was a combination of some injuries. RSL fans will probably have more information on that one. But he just didn't get involved a lot. Looks like he spent some time back at Jagiellonia too after he joined RSL. And then this season he's gotten a bit more game time and hasn't really been involved a ton on the score sheet. His underlying numbers aren't really anything that's super impressive. Maybe the positional change, because I did hear they were talking about playing him as a wing back. Maybe that sparked something for him, but it's another one again where it's like the potential's there, and I understand that, but they also gave up a first round pick to bring him in on loan. It is a short term thing where they gave up a first round pick for it. I think it's good. Like it's good for FCC in terms of pushing to win the Supporter Shield and being ambitious. But to call it the greatest window of Major League Soccer history is insane to me.
Yeah, well, it's super interesting, right? So you mentioned the ambition, and I love the ambition. They're, like I said, join on points with San Diego. Instead of coasting, they're out here trying to push and get better and bring in these reinforcements. And our friends on Twitter, the FC Cincinnati side of Twitter, they mentioned that the two big areas they needed to fix were the second striker to Denke and a better right wing back. They weren't really thrilled with DeAndre Yedlin. They moved on from Yedlin, of course, and then brought in Marschuk, who underperformed at RSL. Shout out Matty Casey, his player to watch, was telling me that he was going to be 15 goal contributions. I think that was the number he put out there. I'm so sorry, Matty. Well, I'm hoping he has a bit. I'm
Why are you
I'm
calling him
hoping
out
DeAndre
like this?
Yedlin.
My goodness.
Oh, he knows. He knows. I told him. But he was all gung ho on him, and it turns out it didn't work, and that's football for you. But and then they add Bernier in that second spot. They also added some depth, in the form of youth players and such, right? The U22 signing and players of that nature, which could help in the short term, but are also preparing for a long term project, right? Which is great. While I'm happy for the ambition, I don't even know if this puts them. Not only is this not the best transfer window, period. I don't even think this puts them over the edge for San Diego. Like I don't think this makes them significantly better, if better at all, than San Diego, right? You've got Marschuk, and we've spoken about this conversation a bunch, where taking a right back to make him a right wing back is a lot easier than making a right winger a right wing back, right? And that's what you're going to try and do here. You're going to try and take a winger and try and not only teach him the defensive side of the game, but also ask him to play more of an attacking side of the ball, which could work, it could not work, right? And then you get to Brenner, like you mentioned. I mean, he was underwhelming in his first year at Cincinnati. He had a good season before he moved on to Italy, and he hasn't played, right? I don't want to say this isn't going to be a good move in the end, but when you're in competition for the number one spot in the table, right? Two guys with just over a combined 1,000 minutes played this season and only six combined goal contributions. I'm not sure that's the killer signing they need to push them over the edge, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean I still stand by. I think there's potential for it to be a very good window, but there's also the potential that this ends up being an absolute nothing window. Like if these guys don't pan out,
Say
it ends
the
up being
term.
nothing. Like these are not
Say
sure.
the term. Say the term.
What's the term?
It's a nothing burger. Say nothing burger.
It's
We
a nothing burger.
we love nothing burger.
Are you ready for dinner? Because FC Cincinnati's serving potentially nothing burgers. Yeah, I mean, like the same way it has potential to be really good, it has potential to be absolutely nothing for them, and it ends up being a flop, and the moves don't pan out because you're taking a risk on these guys. These guys, like I said, are not coming in stellar form. You're taking a flyer, and you know what? All means like that is the right move for, in my opinion, for Cincinnati to make because they are in a position where the team is really good as is. So if you can get one of these guys to pan out and really like hit that potential for them, it's huge for them. I think it's great. You know, they're in a position where the team's going to be good even if these guys don't pan out. So I think it's good moves for FCC and I understand them, but I'm nowhere near close to calling this the best window ever. I think Messi joining alone, just hit that one transfer, is more impactful than all these moves combined.
Yeah, I mean, and I know we're gonna get some slack from the FC Cincinnati supporters, and that's okay, right? Because That's,
Yeah, I mean, back to
they're
your
hyped for
guys.
their
I understand it.
yeah, they're hyped for their team. Good for you, right? I'm happy that you're hyped for them. It just doesn't move the needle for me. And the other part too is there's such a very interesting way that you're building your team, right? Where you've got FC Cincinnati who are building based off of kind of hype, kind of experience, more international based, and then you've got players from San Diego who are basically just a U.S. youth national team being coached by a former U.S. youth national team coach, right? I mean, you've got guys like David Vasquez on loan. You've got guys like Manu Dua, by the way, is playing really well. He's a draft pick. Oscar Verhoeven, Leo Duru, who they just signed in, Luca Bombino, like all of these players who are just basically you have the U.S. youth national kids who are balling out at a level. Now, do the internationals take over the Americans? I don't know, but right now it just feels like San Diego's got a better vibe about them, and I don't think Brenner and Marschuk put them over the top.
Agreed.
Cool. You want to talk about putting somebody over the top? Watch out, supporters shield standings. CF Montreal have signed a designated player, and they are back, baby. They are back. In comes Ivan Jaime. I put E in there for some reason, but I know it's Ivan. Ivan Jaime, an attacking midfielder on loan with a purchase option from FC Porto as a designated player. Never did I think we'd see the day where we were talking about this, but here we are. They also came in and brought in a few MLS players from trade, including Efren Morales, who we spoke about last week. Go check that out if you haven't already. Matty Longstaff from TFC, and Bode Hidalgo from RSL. They've added Thomas Gillier on loan from Bologna, and they've sent a few players off as well. Nathan Saliba is gone to Anderlecht. George Campbell off to West Brom. Jules Anthony Ville-Saint is on the other end of the Longstaff deal, and now most recently Joel Waterman gone to Chicago, and Caden Clark off to DC United. We know that in the past, CF Montreal doesn't really make sense when it comes to their transfer window. Are you starting to see the pieces fall into place for a long-term plan?
No, no. This does nothing for me. And that's not because I don't think this is a good move. Like I think Jaime could be a good addition, but I don't personally think he's your face of the team designated player addition. Like I think he's a good supplemental. Like if I'm gonna use an analogy, like I think he's a good Robin, but you haven't found your Batman. And you're also like what are we doing? Like it's like okay, we're bringing in a designated player, but then we're also selling off all these people who have been like crucial parts to the team in past seasons. Like Caden Clark's gone, Joel Waterman's gone, George Campbell's gone, Nathan Salib is gone. So it's like I don't know, like if I'm a fan, I have no idea what the direction of this team is. Like you're pulling me in two different directions. Oh, we're finally getting a designated player, but then we're selling off all the supporting players. It's like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Like this team is run so poorly. I don't understand. Like I feel really bad for Montreal fans. Like I really do. But this team is just run like a dumpster fire.
Oh man. For all the hate that I give other people, like other teams, you are CF Montreal's number one hater.
It's not even like that makes it sound like I hate like the Montreal fans. Like I really don't. Like I just like the ownership. I just don't understand. Like, why even still have the team at this point? Like, you just clearly don't care about this team. Like, Montreal fans deserve so much better.
There you go. Save it. Well done. I agree with you. I don't see it right now. I don't see it right now, but that doesn't mean that they're not planning something, right? So just a few weeks ago, we had the Saputos come out and basically say, we're gonna put effort into this. We're gonna really focus on it. The same, blah 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 that they've been putting out for the last couple of years. I'm not buying it just yet. However, Joel Waterman's gone, Caden Clark's gone. That netted them 1.4 million again. It's a good bit of cash, especially for this group that is claiming that they're now committed to building up whatever they want to build up, right? They've got a second DP slot or rather a third DP slot open, right? You got Ivan Jaime if they make him long term. Let's pretend that they do just for fun. And Giacomo Vrioni's still here. They've cleared out a U22 spot with George Campbell leaving. So you've got two DPs, two U22s right now. You can go any direction next year. You can pick any way you want to go. However, they don't have a ton of international spots left. So that's where the issue I think comes in. If they're going to do this, they're going to need to go big for American players, Canadian players, right? They really can't do any of this, however, without a coach who's going to commit to a style, right? And we talk about this a lot with the coaches, with the interim coaches right now, right? Maybe you're going to stick with Donadell. Great. Maybe you're going to go somewhere new. Great. But you need to know where you're going with your game model and your player personnel before you can say, these are the players I want you to get. Otherwise, you're spending money to spend money, and that's no good. So I'm not saying that there's no plan. I'm saying you can't say that you can see a plan until you have a coach come in and say, this is what I want. All right, listen, we've mentioned them twice already. It'd be rude not to speak of them. What is going on in Real Salt Lake? We have talked about a few of their moves already. Rowan Cruz and Victor Olatunji in, and they brought DeAndre Yedlin in as well. But they've sent a ton of players out the door. Nelson Palacios out, Lachlan Brook is out, Axel Kai is out, Boda Hidalgo is out, Marischuk is all out. What's going on? Like, what is the plan? Where are they going? They are currently right in the thick of it when it comes to the standings. They're pushing the bottom part of the playoffs. I believe they're in 10th as the time of recording. Yes, 10th, and they're 1 point out of the playoffs. Like, what's the plan here?
I mean, there's a lot of talent in this team, to be honest. Like, you look through their roster and you're like, all right, there's a lot of talented guys. They bolstered up the attack, bringing in Ruan Cruz and Victor Olatunji. And this is always a team where somehow, some way, I don't know, by the magical powers of friendship or something, they pull the defensive line together, even though there's really not like huge names when you look at the back line. Although I do think Cabral has been an excellent addition for them. It's really just a matter of getting the pieces to work together. And, maybe that's a question of if Mastroeni is the right guy for these pieces. And maybe it's a question of do they need a little bit more time to kind of gel and figure things out? But I don't necessarily think RSL's far off from being a competitive team. I don't think they have the tools to be competing with a San Diego or a Miami or an FCC, but I don't think they're lacking talent to the point where they can't be a solid playoff team. Like I think maybe just give them a little bit more time and they can like put something together. But like I think there to me there feels like a lot more vision and a lot more stuff in place than like a Montreal, for example, since we just spoke about them.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of where I'm at too. Is all the players that they've kind of cut down, quote unquote, dead weight, right? I think Nelson Palacio was the tougher one to lose. He just couldn't get in, right? You had a couple players in there, Emeka Nelly, Brian Ojeda, who were just, and Pablo Ruiz, who were just running the show. Palacio couldn't break in, so they had to move him on. He was on a big contract, if I remember correctly. Axel Kai wasn't getting into the team, right? Lachlan Brook never made into the team. Boda Hidalgo was good, right? Okay, he did enough. And Marshchuk was underperforming, right? So you come in and you replace him with DeAndre Yedlin, veteran, speed, attacking output, right? You come in and you add a couple of attackers, which is again the thing that they were missing the most, right? We talked about it. You had Willie Agata, who I don't know who put a curse on him, but somebody podcast cursed at him, Connor, and
Yeah,
now he's
okay.
out here not doing anything. So they bring in two strikers to do it. So to me, I don't think it puts them clear in a way of anybody, right? 6 to 12 in the Western Conference is separated by 5 points. Yeah, 6 points, 7 points, something like that. Very, very close, right? You extend that up to four, and you're looking at 11, 12 points, right? One good run gets you into the playoffs and well into the playoffs, but one bad run also gets you out there. This just gives you better options to figure it out. But to me, it's less about the new players figuring it out and more about the people who are there figuring it out, right? Diego Gonçalves, step up, dude, right? Diego Luna, continue to carry. Xavier Gozo, young player, really exciting. Need to see if he can put the team on his back. Johnny Russell with the experience, can you go ahead and continue to put pressure on yourself to be the best that you can be, right? Who's going to step up and take it to another level? If you find one or two players who's doing that, great, you're in the playoffs. If not, they now have decisions to make towards the end of the year.
Yeah. I couldn't have said it much better myself, even though I did say it myself.
Naturally, because I know everything. All right, let's then move over to North Carolina because we need to talk about Charlotte. We did a little bit of it last week, talking about Drake Callender. But let's be real. Connor's been way too unopinionated recently. He's been very much just like, yeah, this is okay. Yeah, this isn't good. And we know that if we need to get an opinion out of Connor, we call our friend from Middlesbrough to help us out. They're in not only for Max Arston, who has yet to make a decision, but a confirmed move for Adelson Malanda, 8 mil plus add-ons. It's a comparable move to Moise Bombito. They also brought in Harry Tafolo at left back and Archie Goodwin as another striker. They bought out Suleiman Doumbia, who was here for like 4 months, and they waived George Marks, a backup goalkeeper, which makes sense with the Drake Callender signing. Just riff, baby. What's your vibe on the Borough MLS to Borough hype train?
There's been a lot of moves. Listen, I think you're creating this false narrative here, okay? I'm not anti Middlesbrough, all right? I am just saying for Aiden Morris in particular, I felt and still feel like Aiden Morris is a good enough player to play for a first division team. That's where I stand on that. Now, you talk about Max Arston. I said that I think he would be a great addition for Middlesbrough. I think fits into their system really well and would be a good player for them. I think Malanda could be as well. I think it's a good situation for him. The team is off to a good start this season. One of the things that they've been really good at is the defense. So you're walking into a good defensive situation. You're not walking into a mess and having to fix things. I think it's a good situation for him. It's a good move. I don't think he's like as good as Malanda's been. I don't think he is necessarily at like a Premier League level. I think competitive championship team is a good spot for him to start with and then make some progress and maybe he gets on a team that challenges and gets up. So I think Middlesbrough is a good spot for him to land. Sorry, you're not getting your clip.
Reeling them back in, huh? Um, Worth the price. Talk to me about the price. I think it was 8.
I mean, like, so I the market is so like broken on how much money should be spent for players. Like eight doesn't feel like eight in the grand scheme of the whole like footballing market is not a lot. Like it's not a lot of money to spend and it's a reasonable price for a championship club to pay. For Charlotte, I think when you put it into Major League Soccer standards and what people have been going for, I think it's a good fee for them to get. 8 million is pretty solid. I think Colorado got something close for Bombito. I can't remember what his fee was, but it seems like it's relatively around the going price for a younger center back coming from the league. So I think it's a good fee, probably for on both ends, to be honest, for Middlesbrough and for Charlotte.
Yeah, it was roughly that price as I'm looking here. Yeah, I believe that he's worth the move, right? And I'm glad that Charlotte got their valuation met, right? Will he do well there? I think he will, right? So think about it. We were just talking about him before. George Campbell moved to West Brom and hit the ground running. He started 2 of their last 3 games. They picked up 4 out of 6 points. He's gone the full 90 minutes in both. I think Malanda is on the same level, if not a step higher than Campbell was. And I know that's going to hurt you as a George Campbell truther. What was he, your player to watch for 6 seasons in a row?
Definitely not true.
Check the tape. um, it will be really interesting to see how he gets on. I think Charlotte have not been as strong defensively as they once were, but he was in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation last year. There's a reason for that. Middlesbrough also have 4 center backs on roster. According to Transfer Market, one of them is hurt. Slide in at the end of the year, come in fit, come in good form, and I think you have a good chance to get minutes early, right? And his style is a good style for that, right? He's a ball winning guy in the air. He's got good size. Um, Championship's very direct. I think it's gonna be a good fit for him if he takes the challenge, right? But let's just think here. Malanda and Ajiman both went for the same price. They both went for 8 mil, which I think is very, very interesting.
I mean, it's good money they're bringing in, but now it's all about the reinvestment. We talked so much about Charlotte being ambitious and the players they were looking at. Time to put your money where your mouth is. You got the money. Time to bring these deals home.
Yep. Well, and the interesting part, right? So I know he just got hurt, but you got Pep BL on a loan to buy move. My guess is that's going to happen, right? You got Wilfred
You have
Zaha
to buy him.
on, yeah, 100%. He's before he got hurt, he was in the uh, MVP conversation, right? Wilfred Zaha is on loan. I don't know if you bring him back personally. Not sure that's a move for me, right? You've got an open U22 spot if you want to stick with two designated players, or you can go to a third designated player, and we know that Charlotte isn't afraid to spend money. What do we need then, right? You've got your goalkeeper situation set up. You've got um, some strikers coming in you're looking at that might be worth that move. I don't know. But my guess is you're going to look at a high level defensive player and a high level attacker that you're going to need to use some big moves on. So it'll be interesting to see how they reinvest that because, like you mentioned, you can turn 3 million of that 16 million into GAM. Cool, but what's the other 13 going to do? Right? How are you going to reinvest that? You're going to reinvest it into players. And finally, we would be so silly if we let this one go. The USMNT death blow. Paxton Aaronson is returned to MLS. It's for the Colorado Rapids. Are we kidding? The US was on pace to win the World Cup in 26, and now we're not even going to qualify. I don't care that we have an auto qualification. We're done. We're not even going to qualify anymore because Paxton Aaronson is playing in Denver, Colorado, instead of riding the bench in the Netherlands or Germany or wherever he ended up this year. Oh man, Colorado have made a huge overhaul with their side. Georgi Mihailovic has moved on to Toronto, and in response, they've added a ton of talent, including Alexis Manyoma, Lucas Harrington, Rafael Santos, and of course the big one, Paxton Aaronson. The latter of those moves sent the USMNT Twitter into a tailspin meltdown on the same level as I don't even know if I can compare this to something, in terms of breakdown, right? Let's go back to when we got grouped in Copa America. It may have been worse than we got grouped in Copa America. Like Paxton Aaronson coming to Colorado may have elicited a worse response on Twitter than the U.S. men's national team getting grouped in Copa America because, duh, that meltdown just brought a smile to my face because it's always a good day when USMNT Eurosnob Twitter is melting down, especially with all their really good ball knowledge that they share on the site every day. Really opens your eyes to different viewpoints and things like that, which is great. But many are saying that his USMNT career is over now that he's with Colorado. What do you think?
I mean, it's hard to talk about a USMNT career. The guy has played 4 times for the USMNT, but as you said, our World Cup chances are absolutely gone. Our automatic bid is taken away, and we're gonna get grouped by a group of like, I don't know, countries you've probably never even heard of before. Um,
Uzbekistan,
no, I mean obviously, yeah, yeah. It's gonna be like Uzbekistan and some like I don't know New Zealand. They're gonna group us.
Uzbekistan, New Zealand, and what's the other one? Maybe Mali or somebody will get tossed in there.
Yeah, and we'll get grouped because Paxton Aaronson moved to Colorado. I mean, like, look, I think he has very high potential. He played a ton last season for Utrecht. At fourth place Utrecht, he played nearly 2,700 minutes and looked to have been a strong contributor to them with 8 goals, 4 assists. He's clearly a very talented player. I just think that people are so brain broken to we need to maximize USMNT potential no matter what the cost is, that they forget that these are like actual human beings and maybe a guy that moved over to Europe at 18 years old wasn't ready to move to Europe and wants to come back home and be close to family and friends. I know, shocking revelation. He could come here, make good money still, and be close to his family and friends, or closer at least. So yeah, it's great for the league in my opinion. You get a really up and coming star for the USMNT. I don't think his career is over. I don't even think it's close to being over. I think people are also forgetting too, like if, and I agree, I think Europe is the best place to develop, although recent results are saying maybe that's not the case, considering how poor this USMNT has been. But he's like 21 years old. He could still go back to Europe. If he has 4 good seasons here, he goes off and maybe he's like more ready to face Europe and be in European leagues. He could go there at like 25, 26. His career is not over. His life is not over because he came back to Colorado at 21 years old. Like, people got to chill out.
I've got so many thoughts, and I need to figure out where to start with them. Because I could, I mean, like I said, I'm trying my best on Twitter not to just be the anti-MLS guy because it's so easy to do so because they just say the dumbest stuff. But let's start here. No, his USMNT career is not over. Pochettino has shown that MLS players that playing at high levels, Diego Luna, for example, and Nathan Harriel can make the national team. You know, depending on who you know, I
You
guess.
really hate Nathan Harriel.
He's just not a national team player, man. He also plays for Philly, so he's automatically enemy for me. Um, they didn't their streak against Red Bull ended last week, baby. Yeah. They can all make it to the national team. It's no longer a death sentence to be a star in MLS versus a bench warmer in Europe, right? That's not a thing. And I get the idea that like, oh, he was breaking into to what German side did he come from? I don't remember.
Frankfurt.
Frankfurt. Yes, Eintracht Frankfurt. He had a great season at Utrecht, right? And it's completely possible. And we don't know. I mean, maybe I missed it. Maybe it did come out there, but it's very possible that Frankfurt came in and said, "Yeah, you did really well at Utrecht, but you're still going to be a rotation piece for us." And he's like, "All right, well, I've got 1 year before the World Cup. I'm trying to make it. I need to play." Back he comes, right? It's not a death sentence to be good in MLS anymore because you're playing against higher quality people than you were 10 years ago. It's significantly better, right? And I struggle to believe that just being in Europe again is the better place to develop. I'm not saying that there are not good places, right? I think the Netherlands. I watched a PSV game today, and Serginho Dest looked great, right? Esmir Bajrak who is no longer a USMNT player, but he looked great. The style of play was good. The pace of play was good, was really, really nice, right? Before that game, I watched Mallorca versus Celta Vigo. And I tell you, if that game was moving slower than my high school players play, I would not be exaggerating. There was no pace, there was no energy. The stadium was half empty. The level of play was poor. Just being there does not guarantee you a better environment anymore, right? The levels have changed to the point where certain teams just are not as good as others. So just being in Europe does not make you instantly better than an MLS team. Now there are some very bad MLS teams. Colorado, depending on which way you look at it, could be one of those teams, right? They're building something differently. They're trying to go forward, right? I don't buy the whole MLS versus Europe thing unless it's such a big, drastic change, right? Pulisic at Milan, Weah at Marseille, Juventus and McKinney, yes, those will all be better than, so long as they're playing, will all be better than playing at Colorado and MLS. Being the fourth guy off the bench at Frankfurt for 15 minutes a game, to me, is not better than being the star of Colorado, right?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, talk about the guy you just mentioned earlier that left Colorado. Look at Mihailovic. He was not getting game time playing in the Dutch league. He comes back to Major League Soccer and he rediscovers his form and he's playing fantastic again. The exact same thing could happen to, I mean, I'm not saying like Paxton isn't exactly in the same spot because Paxton played a ton last year, but it's not impossible for someone to come to Major League Soccer and like really get confidence and rediscover form and be able to translate that into the USMNT. I mean, we talked about it. Like the most exciting that we've seen the USMNT in the last like year, maybe 2 years, was the Gold Cup, and that was a ton of MLS guys in there because they actually fought and like played hard.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And again, and you made this point too. Why are we pretending like Paxton Aaronson was some locked on starter for the national team? He was at the Gold Cup. We were just talking about it. He played 0 minutes. Whether you agree with him playing or not, he was a rotation piece. And being a rotation piece in Germany was not going to bump him to a starting 11 role. It barely would have gotten him in as a bench player. With all of our healthy players, he would have been the one gone. So he needed a change to get that up there. Um, and I'll go off of what you said as well. He moved because he liked the style of play, he liked the vision of the club, and he moved to be happy. Are we kidding? I saw somebody say, no, you have to tough it out and be miserable so that your career can get better. Are you out of your mind? Anybody ever told me at work when I was working at my other job and I was miserable and everybody said, "No, you gotta tough it out so you can get better at what you're doing," I would have laughed at them in the face. Nobody ever in the history of the world should have to go through periods of unhappiness just to progress in a job. If you aren't happy when you're playing, you're not going to improve, right? That's always the biggest thing. Players need to have fun and enjoy the game to get better. If you're constantly upset, if you're constantly angry, if you're constantly uncomfortable in the wrong way, right? There's good uncomfortable and bad uncomfortable. If you're constantly uncomfortable in the wrong way, development is stunted. It's proven, which is why it's such a big focus to be happy and enjoying what you're doing, right? Oh yeah, and he also secured generational money. How dare you take money instead of sacrificing for the national team? Are we kidding?
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, he's 21 years old. There is so much time for him to still go back to Europe. He can, if you really are, if that is the hill that you need to die on, that you have to go to Europe in order to properly develop and get into the men's national team, he has so much time to still do that. He could stay here for 2 years, ball out, and then go back to Europe. And then all of a sudden magically getting back into the USMNT fold, and all of a sudden we're going to be competing for the World Cup again.
I'm really interested in this now that you bring this up because I've been thinking about the way to phrase this, but you just brought up how many teenagers, right? How many kids are leaving MLS to go overseas to Europe and instantly making a direct impact the second they get there? I can't think of very many. Aiden Morris maybe, but Aiden Morris is in his 20s now, right?
Yeah, I don't think Aiden's like a teenager anymore.
No. Well, I think of guys like Ricardo Pepi, right? Yeah, Aiden Morris is 23. I think guys like Ricardo Pepi, right? Ricardo Pepi took a while to get
But
going, and now,
he didn't have an impact right away.
right? No, and now look, he's bang on one of the starters for the national team, where people are saying he should be, which is great. There are, I'm trying to think some other players who might have made the move. Chris Richards, another great one, right? Chris Richards has moved over pretty much as soon as he could, and he only just started getting consistent looks, right? The idea that as soon as you have to leave hurts more careers than it does help. In if I had to do the numbers and check, if we made it and again, you can't mandate this, but if we said, hey, nobody goes overseas until you're 22, 23, where you've gotten consistent game time in MLS, where you are ready to go, then you can go when you're at an age where you can handle that move. You're putting teenagers overseas or young adults. I won't even use teenager, right? Because Paxton Aaronson, like you mentioned, was 21. He moved when he was a teenager, but still, you're putting certain people and saying you have to go if you want to be in the national team. And if you can't hack it, not only is your soccer career gonna take a tumble if you can't find form or whatever, but your national team's over all this stuff because you didn't go when you were 17. That's crazy, right? If we got behind this idea, we need to put these players through games in MLS before we send them on, instead of saying, hey, we're going to sell them to, and I'll use this all the time, we're going to sell them to Chelsea, right? Caleb Wiley, another good example, by the way, guy who was supposed to be a bang on left back, secondary left back for Jedi Robinson, can't get a game at Chelsea, bouncing around loan clubs before he's off. Matt Miazga, back in MLS, right? Like, instead of sending these players to their career altering moves because they're going to be on loan army for some random shell company of a European club who just has 17 clubs that you're just going to bounce around in until they can buy the next person and sell you for a profit. I mean, hold on to them here, let them get good game experience, raise the level of the league, and move on from there. That's I don't know that might not have come out as clean as my brain is seeing it because word vomit, but I think that kind of got my point across. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think for every one success case that you could talk about, there's three, four, five different cases you could talk about guys going over as teenagers and getting no game time and just flat out not working out until they finally end up in the right situation and it does pan out. Versus you've guys like we spoke about both of them in either this episode or the last one. Aiden Morris, Moist Bombito. I know Bombito is not American, but
Mhm.
both of those guys played in Major League Soccer, got good minutes, went over to Europe, and immediately became starters and got significant minutes in their first season there and have impacts on those teams. What's the point in going to Europe if you're not going to play? So many of these guys go over. Pepe went over, didn't play. Paxton Aaronson went over, didn't play. Caleb Wiley, like you said, went over, doesn't play. So it's like, what's the point? Like you you cannot develop if you're not playing. So what? There's no point in going to Europe if you're just going to sit there on the bench and not play, or just get sent around to a million different loan moves and not develop.
Well, and I think the important part too is like consistency in MLS, right? Aiden Morris had 2 or 3 years where he was one of the most important midfielders Columbus Crew had. Moise Bombito had a year and a half, 2 years where he was a key part of Colorado's defense. I think I might be wrong there. Ricardo Pepi had one breakout year and they sold him.
I mean, one person that came to my mind that I know hasn't panned out in Europe, that was a Dallas product, was Justin Shea. If you remember
Oh,
him,
that's the one I was thinking of.
he pop,
Yes,
he popped over to Europe very early, and it has not panned out.
Brian Reynolds.
That's not to say it can't still pan out for him,
Yeah,
huh? Brian Reynolds.
Brian Reynolds as
Yeah,
well,
that's another
right?
good one.
And here's the thing, right? It's
Yeah.
it's this idea of and I don't know if it's a mismanagement or what have you, but it's the idea of you have to go as soon as you can so you can get better development. Development in the United States is still doing fine. Is it at the level where we're producing world class player after world class player? No. But the development to the point where we can turn you into a pro who has the right work ethic and the right mentality and the right technical ability to succeed at the next level when you are ready, yeah, that exists, right? And I think that's the issue is people are just saying you got to go and you'll figure it out when you get there. Obviously not, right? And the mindset behind like, oh well, cream rises to the top and they're going to figure it out and that's the way it needs to be. No, right? Let's foster the idea of success here so that they can have it over there. Right. And maybe that takes MLS to another level, right? That's something we haven't talked about where holding on to those players a little bit longer raises our ceiling a little bit better, right? So that more people say, oh, well, these are players that, clearly are growing throughout the system and getting better every year. Now I want to come play there. I want to be part of it, whatever. Right. But this idea of sending people over as soon as they're ready to go, like as soon as they're able to go before they're actually ready, I think is a hindrance more to uh, the U.S. national team than somebody coming back after they haven't been as successful, right? But there was one other thing I wanted to mention because uh, we got our first block on Twitter. Yeah, let's go. We've got haters. Um, there are certain USMNT accounts who are adamant that either US Soccer or FIFA or some higher power needs to take legal action against the Colorado Rapids for intentionally sabotaging the national team for their own gain. If I get it correctly, let's just make sure we have the phrasing correct here. Okay. The Twitter account said that they should retaliate. US Soccer should retaliate against the Colorado Rapids because these MLS clubs think that holding on to youth national team players is not a viable strategy because it will ruin the national team. They tried it in the 2018 World Cup and we saw what happened. The, Bradley and Altidore returned and they got fat and happy. They couldn't play anymore at the national team level and they ended up being the failed generation. Nobody has anything against MLS. It just clearly does not help a player's career to go from a top four league UCL club to a random team in like the 12th best league. No one thinks it's okay for a 21-year-old to move from Frankfurt to Atlas. So then why does it make sense to move to MLS either? So when MLS starts doing this to the national team, it's time to take preventative measures to make sure they believe they made a mistake and this can't happen again. Are we calling for sanctioning of clubs for signing players? Fellas, is it wrong for clubs to try and win games?
You know what? I think this guy's onto something here. I think we really do need to sanction. We got to, you know what? I'll take it one step further. For every American that an MLS side has in their that makes an appearance for their team that is under the age of 23, that is one international spot wiped off of your roster roll. Actually, I'll do one step further. We really need to punish this. One designated player spot wiped off. And if you go into the negatives, then Montreal gets an extra DP spot.
Oh man, it's just
It's ridiculous. Honestly, just cry. Just cry harder. Honestly, that's all I have to say for them.
but like we have to again. This is going to be a PSA for our friends from the USMNT community that are watching this video and probably in the middle of typing their hate comments right now. The U.S. men's national team is not a club; it's a national team. There are differences, right? And clubs and leagues, MLS, Colorado Rapids, EPL, La Liga, they do not exist simply to feed the national team. That's not their sole purpose. They have their own interests, they have their own fan bases to keep happy, and that means that they have to try to win games by signing the best players they can. If they approach a player, they have the option to turn that team down. But if the player and the club agree, then the move happens. So we need to stop treating the men's national team like it's some club above everybody else's that just has to have unquestionable support from everybody, and everybody else should just bow down to them because their own players don't even care about them, right? They're not showing up to Gold Cups. They're not showing up to training camps. They don't care. So I will continue to support the hometown club, which I see play 40 times a year, more than I will support the national team that plays 6 times a year. I'm not saying I want the national team to be poor, but if you're telling me that I need to take a fringed national team player to make a club team better, yeah, that's going to be a good thing for me. Because guess what? It makes the league better. And I've said this before. If your league is better, your home league is better, you are producing more talent, which either stays or goes. It doesn't matter. But you're producing more talent, which is making your national team better. And I've seen multiple people say we should just blow up MLS and start over because that'll mean the national team will get a reset and we can do it right. You would take one player who is on the fringe coming back to MLS. You couldn't take that, but you'll blow it up and set yourself back 50 years to see if you could try it again. This is insanity. And apparently, me having a comment on that tweet is enough to get me blocked. So, yeah, we made it, guys.
Congratulations. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, listen, it's a good day to have a good day. But I also found out, I'm not unique in this. I'm not unique in this, unfortunately, because he blocked every single Colorado fan in his mentions from his tweet. Everybody got the block, which is really funny because if you want to talk about how you want to be big, tough, and strong, and then just block everybody who disagrees with you, that's really funny to me. But listen, at the end of the day, if you want MLS to fail, inherently you want US Soccer and USMNT to fail. That is it. I know you can in your brain you probably can separate them, but it's not because if you take away that developmental pipeline, those kids that we keep putting through the pipeline of the youth academies and the free to play academies and the college system, all that stuff, it all either goes away, right? In the biggest cities, right? You've got your USL ones that'll be there, but the biggest cities, the Chicago's, the New Yorks, they all go. And that many people are still playing football now, or they're playing baseball or basketball or whatever. And inherently, you then are either relying on dual nationals, or you're just going to hurt your developmental process. You're going to set the league back miles, or rather the national team back miles. So this idea that we need to blow it up and start all over is asinine and insanity. Oh, okay. Well, that was fun. That was a good time. Thanks everybody for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. We definitely did. Make sure you leave your comments below and on social media so that we can interact with you. Make sure you're following us wherever you get your podcasts. So you know when the next episode goes live. We're going to have a lot of fun over the next couple of weeks doing various episodes. We won't spoil them yet. We'll put out some teasers on social media. So make sure you go follow them so you know what's coming next. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. I think that's everything. I think we've covered everything. We really appreciate you guys being here, and we'll see you next time on the next episode of the Designated Players and MLS Podcast. See ya.